Welcome everybody to Beers with Bill, the vacation editions. And as you can see, no, I am not in Nova Scotia yet. It's a long story. I may share it with you afterwards. It's my pleasure tonight to welcome the president and co-founder of Merit Brewing, Tej Jordan. Welcome to the show, Tej.
Thanks so much. Super excited to do this. It's a lot of fun.
I am so happy that we had a chance to connect and talk beforehand. And you're sitting there in the brewery. I love that fact. You want to talk a little bit before we get into the questions about the, yeah.
There we are.
You want to talk, first of all, the first beer that we're going to do, you want to tell people what it is and give them a little bit of a background?
Yeah, sure. I thought we'd start off with Mallard Light. We'll keep it nice and light to start. This one's a cool one. One of the things that we've really been focusing on, especially over COVID, in thinking about what we want, Merit to represent, what we put out in the world is the idea of sharing what makes Hamilton bright. And Mallard Light is a really good example of that for us. It's actually a collaboration with a duck. And usually you see a lot of breweries collaborating with each other. We decided to collaborate with a local duck. And Lewis is a human duck. He's an anonymous person in Hamilton who's decided that one of the things that he wants to do for his art is to, he built this gigantic duck costume that he walks around in the downtown core just to make people's day, just to surprise people, just to, bring a little bit of, curiosity and excitement to, finding and spotting Lewis. And, at first when we saw him, we thought it was weird as hell, but then we started getting excited about, seeing him all the time. And we love seeing, how he engaged with the community again, just to make people's day a little bit brighter. So we reached out to him and thought, hey, let's make a beer celebrating what you're doing just to make people's day. So we made Mallard Light, a nice light lager, dry hopped with a couple cool German varietals, whole melon and Mandarin and Bavaria, just give a little citrusy and melon profile. We really like it. We released it in the middle of the summer. So for us, it's the ultimate, light patio crusher. For me, when I drink Mallard Light, I feel like I'm drinking fresh water out of the hose, like a kid on a hot day in the middle of summer. So, for us, that's really what it's meant to do. It's meant to refresh. It's meant to cool you down. It's meant to be nice, light, and fun at the same time.
I have to ask, what was it like having a duck wandering around the brewery?
More awkward than anything else because the costume's pretty big, and while we have a pretty open space here, he takes up a lot of space, that more than anything made it an interesting day. He can't quite hold a mash paddle. He uses his hand as a tongue. So he used his hand a little bit to help out with the dry hop. But it was fun. It was weird. A lot of people were very confused that were coming into the tap room at the time about what was happening, but that's okay.
I absolutely love it. I've got all these visions inside my head about that. That's fantastic. I do like this. It's definitely what you say, a summer crusher beer. You get the Pilsner background to it. Mm.
Yeah, 4.2% too. So we really went on the light side. We didn't brew it to have bitterness at the forefront at all. Really wanted it to be crisp, really smooth. Lager for about 8 weeks. So really makes for a really clean finish. It's almost gone. That's the sad part with a lot of these beers right now is they're almost gone. So we're saying goodbye to a lot of them.
Is that sad?
A little bit, yeah. Although that's kind of the nature of what we do here too. A lot of beers go really quickly, and we did build this place, a lot, for experimentation and for the ability to constantly kind of turn over and try something new. So it's sometimes you get attached to some beers, and especially certain styles like lagers, we don't always have them around. We do have another one coming out, but when you see a favorite go, it's a little sad sometimes.
Now, I I kind of troll my guests. I check what's out online about them and everything. And you allude to Merit being the fifth ingredient brewery. You want to enlighten us a little bit about what that means?
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, when we started saying that in 2017, that was maybe a little more novel in its literal sense around, like enjoying adding an ingredient to a beer. As much as we love making a, twist style lager, for example, or a whip beer like we're going to taste later, sometimes it's really fun to mess around with like what that twist that you can put on it is. We also, don't always hold ourselves to adding a fifth ingredient. Sometimes fifth ingredient is just a good story. Sometimes it's a good name. Sometimes it's, a good time to go along with the beer. But fifth ingredient for us, we try to have a purpose. We try to have a twist. Again, not necessarily in an ingredient form, but at least a purpose for everything we do and everything we brew here. It's the fifth ingredient sometimes is just that extra bit of thought. I don't want to be too corny and say the fifth ingredient is always a love. That goes in every beer, but for us, that fifth ingredient is it just kind of keeps in check our purpose and keeps in check what we do and why we do it.
Totally understand that.
Yeah.
After the story about the duck, I'm afraid to ask this though. What has been the most interesting story that's been about a beer?
Interesting story. We have a beer out right now called Then. It's one of the beer and wine hybrids that we do, and it's one of the beers to me that has the longest story, that we've found it the hardest to actually communicate easily or communicate quickly, especially like over the bar when we're in service or when we're quickly talking to a customer. But it's cool because we do a lot of these beer and wine hybrids, and yeah, they all start with harvest. So harvest season, you kind of running from September to November, very intense, like 2-month period where we get calls from winemakers about coming and grabbing grapes now or never. We keep a van like on, standby basically to go and run and get grapes. But then is really cool because it's a full circle and a full year beer for us. One of the things that, Spinny's always really enjoyed the challenge of is using an ingredient in a way that no one's ever used it. So while we do age a lot of our beers on grape skins, one of the things that we challenged ourselves with then was how do we use grapes, or how do we use vineyards specifically as an ingredient in a way that no one's ever used them in. So here's what we thought of. We thought we're going to take these Cab Franc skins. We're going to in the fall. We're going to vacuum pack them. We're going to freeze them and preserve them. Then what we're going to do is in February, when the vineyards are thawing, when really the winemaking process for the next year starts, we're going to go to the vineyards that the Cab Franc grapes with the winemakers, and we're going to trim the canes. The canes are the harder wood part of the vines. We're going to trim the canes from that vineyard. We're going to take those canes, we're going to dry them out, and then we're going to use that dried wood to smoke malt, and to use that smoke to impart a little bit of flavor in the grain that we're going to use to brew a beer with, that we then age the Cab Franc skins on. So it's weird. I don't know if that was too much to follow, but it's, for us, it's using part of the grape and part of the winemaker's process and part of what their year looks like. The pretty non-sexy part of their year, where they're cutting branches off of vines, and turn that into something that we can use to influence the profile of a beer. So we have grape skins from there. We have the actual, vines and canes from the vineyard in that beer as well. And we do something that not a lot of breweries do at all, which is smoke your own malt. We're lucky that we have a kitchen here with a gigantic smoker in it that we could actually smoke a lot of malts in-house to make this beer. So for us, that's the beer that has a lot of purpose, that has a cool story that, at the end of the day, it's pretty hard to replicate as well.
You answered my question. What I was going to ask next was, you're in the heart of downtown Hamilton. How do you smoke malt without having your neighbors upset?
Yeah, luckily we've got a big kitchen and a hood that takes care of getting rid of all the after effects of that for us.
Yeah, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah. We really we play a lot between the brewery and the kitchen here. That's, you know, one of the reasons we wanted to have food outside of from a pairing perspective was to have the resource of the kitchen too, and likewise to have the brewery be a resource for the kitchen at the same time. So yeah, that's one of the beers that really ties together the purpose of, you know, how we set Merit up too.
So you and Spinney went to grad school together, did you not?
We weren't in school. We weren't at the same school. I was in McMaster, and he was at Mohawk. So we're both in Hamilton, you know, at college and university respectively. And a lot of his friends that he went to high school with actually ended up becoming friends of mine at McMaster. We all lived on the same like residence floor in first year. And so we ran into each other at house parties and stuff like that, and ended up being two guys who really enjoyed talking about beer and enjoyed talking about food, and that bonded us and you know, brought us to where we are today pretty quickly, actually.
How did is it Jesse or Jesse? How did Jesse get into that mix?
Yeah, so Jesse Valens, who's our other partner, is a chef. He's a really well-known chef in Toronto. We actually got introduced to him by Zane Kaplansky. I don't know if that name rings any bells, but Kaplansky's Deli in Toronto was a great spot there. I'd known Zane for about 2 decades just through our family friends. Zane's brother and my dad are really good friends. And so when we started planning the brewery and we knew that we wanted food to be a part of it, I actually reached out to Zane and just asked if I could sit down and pick his brain about the food side of the business, which was immediately terrifying. You know, a really big, you know, challenge for us to even wrap our heads around. So Zane was an awesome resource at first. And the initial idea was that I had for Zane was actually, hey, do you want to come run a sandwich shop out of the brewery? You can take care of all the food. We'll take care of the beer. We'll make sure there's people at tables, and you can sling sandwiches to people in Hamilton. He was busy working on his expansion for Kaplansky's with the line of mustards and stuff. But he said, you know, I can't be directly involved, but what I can do is introduce you to a couple people in Toronto that I think would be like really interested in pursuing a project like this. And so he introduced me to 3 chefs. I ended up meeting with all of them, sitting down, and Jesse was one of them. We really clicked. Jesse is not only an incredible chef, but his education and background with beverages is wildly impressive too. He's one of only a couple advanced cicerones in Canada. He's a sommelier. He's a cheese fromagier. He's a dude who really likes food and drink, and you know, we really connected over that. And Jesse, you know, his idea and his thought was, hey, let's make sausage. Let's make sausage that, you know, no one's had before. Let's make the best sausage that people can find. I was like, okay, cool, that sounds good. Like, how good can sausage be though? And a couple months later, there was this competition in Toronto called the Sausage League. It was actually a competition that ran for, I think, 5 or 6 years in Toronto. And basically what it was a bunch of chefs from around the city, like really well-known restaurants, would compete in this like bracket style competition where sausage had to be the focus of the dish, and you were throwing a curveball in every round and everything. And so I went out to these Sausage League competition events and slowly realized, holy shit, Jesse makes great sausage. He ended up winning that year. He actually won 5 of the 6 years that the Sausage League was even a competition. So it's pretty clear that, you know, this dude can make great sausage. He's supremely talented, and outside of that, he knows beverages. And so, and specifically beer was a passion of his that he's never been able to really directly be hands-on with. So yeah, he jumped on board from there. We, you know, got to designing the program in the kitchen that would, you know, really well suit the beer that we wanted to make. And beer and sausage just makes sense. You know, everyone knows it as a great combination. They're intrinsically, you know, connected, like peanut butter and jelly. We, you know, might not have a lager and a bratwurst on the menu. We might, but we do, you know, we also might have a, you know, dry hop saison with Indian coriander and orange and a butter chicken sausage on the menu at the same time. So we get to use that combination and that, you know, pairing as a canvas to mess around to extremes or to, you know, to classics at the same time.
We're going to go to bleachers next, right?
Yeah, let's do it. This is Bleachers. Bleachers is a wit beer. It's a pretty, I'd say it's a pretty classic wit beer without being a classic wit beer, in that we omitted, ironically, we omitted the fifth and sixth ingredient in the coriander and orange that, you know, a lot of people do tend to add. What we wanted to do with Bleachers was actually make a yeast-driven wit beer. So we really wanted to see how much character we could pull out of the fruity wit yeast from Escarpment Labs. So we challenged ourselves to really making the most like aromatic, the most, you know, bright wit beer as we could with just the simplicity of 4 ingredients this time. But yeah, one second.
I would have said right as soon as I tasted it, classic wit beer.
Yeah. And it's cool for, you know, for us, we've brewed a couple wit beers over the last 4 years, and each of them have really dived into, you know, experimental territory. We did like a dark wit. We did a wit with like lavender and vanilla and lemon and something else. Maybe cardamom. And you know, when we were approaching brewing this one, we just wanted to keep it simple. We called it Bleachers because we kind of think of it as like the ultimate sideline beer of summer. You know, it's not a beer that you're, you know, active playing the game. You know, you're kicking back, you're having fun, you're letting everybody else go crazy and, you know, be active, and you're on the sidelines enjoying yourselves, you know, keeping cool basically. That was the idea behind Bleachers.
That's an intriguing way to look at it. Who does your artwork?
So only recently, in the last almost year, we added a team member named Justin Spencer. Justin used to work for Left Field for about 5 years. He joined our team in August last year. So he started doing the artwork. Prior to Justin joining the team, we were working with an amazing local artist named Jamie Lawson. So you'll notice if you look at some brands or like an older bottle of Merit, you'll see a lot more like character-based, you know, fine detail illustration. All of that's Jamie's work, and I had a blast working with Jamie. And you know, we had a lot of fun creating stories to tell on our labels. It was an extremely involved and long process to create every label, which was part of the fun and part of what, you know, netted the art that we had. Given the pace of releases that we wanted to kind of pick up to, it was something that, you know, we both realized wasn't necessarily going to be, you know, possible to continue on doing. So Jamie give Justin the blessing to carry the torch on for the Merit illustration. We've been kind of playing around with the rebrand. I wouldn't even call it a rebrand. Just the kind of rework of some of our illustration and our label artwork over the last year. It's been fun to mess around with and find our feet in kind of a direction that keeps it modern, but, you know, rooted in a lot of the same things too.
Now, you did an MBA and then pursued a career in music. So, of course, I warned you I'd have 2 questions for you. One is, what instrument do you play? And 2, what type of music is it that you like?
I played and I guess still do the piano growing up as a kid. I started when I was 4 years old and really was gravitated towards the application of the piano to other instruments. You know, to me, if you can learn the piano, you've got a good base to learn anything else. My background in music started as a producer, specifically in the like hip hop and pop world, and so given that a lot of that production is digital, playing the piano really suited that world and really kind of set me up to be able to produce a lot within that scope of music. So yeah, that's carried on. I took a pretty long break away from actually physically playing, but even as recently as yesterday, I've been trying to hop back on the keys and trying to make music again, because it's something that,
So can we interest you in being a member of a punk band with Keith and Nick Baird at Beer Lab in London?
Oh, if you need someone to slay some keys, I'm down. I know Nick always has a lot of fun playing. I've seen him play shows. I don't know if I can keep up with it, but I'll try my best. That's awesome.
There you go, Keith. We've got it together now.
Sweet.
I'm totally in. This is awesome.
Yeah, and in terms of what music I like, I'm kind of across the board. You know, I still like a lot of hip hop and pop. My background after kind of leaving the hip hop and pop world went really into like the indie, you know, pop and electronic kind of side of things, and that's definitely where a lot of my, you know, my personal playlists are rooted in right now. Yeah, you know what, I got to be one of those people that says anything but country. I apologize for any country fans on the call, but that's as cliche as it is, it's unfortunately true for me. My wife loves country music, and you know, when she puts it on, it's great for her.
That's a very diplomatic way of putting it.
Yeah.
You're not the first person to not like country on this show.
It's an interesting cliche that sometimes is a hard line where it's anything but country. I don't know why. Although I think that one of the new folks that we just brought onto the team, he's a like massive metalhead. And one of the things that we do when we bring people in, you know, we do a big introduction. We tell people to tell us about themselves a little bit. We play the classic game, 2 Truths and a Lie. And one of the three was, you know, I love moshing. I love country music, and I can't remember what the third one was. We were like, well, the country music thing's definitely not true. Like, dude loves, like, he's got like metal tattoos, and he was like, no, I love country music. Like, that's the biggest dichotomy that we've seen yet.
Wow.
Yeah.
So what music gets played when you're brewing?
A little bit of everything. You know what? In the brewery specifically, it is all over. Like, I kid you not, you will one day walk in and hear Disney theme songs playing. The next day you'll hear AC/DC playing. The next day you'll hear like classic hip hop playing. Then you'll hear Cher on the next hour. It is absolutely ridiculously all over the place, and that's beautiful. Sometimes, you know, it's very confusing to people who are here over the course of, you know, a couple hours to hear the playlist changes. In the tap room, it definitely veers a little more towards, you know, fun, you know, upbeat, indie pop and that kind of stuff like that. And there's a huge group of folks in the brewery that love like hardcore and punk and that kind of thing. So there's a lot of that too.
So I have to ask you, why Hamilton and why downtown Hamilton?
Yeah, it's a great question. It's weird. I grew up in Chicago, so I have no, like, other than coming here from McMaster, I don't have like any deep roots in Hamilton. Even, you know, the time at McMaster, admittedly, Mac has always been a bit of an island in Hamilton. It's not downtown. It's kind of you know, off to the side. It's in a little bit of a bubble, but you know what? Like I took 5 years to graduate. I was running a business while I was in school, so I took a couple semesters off here and there. And so the 5 years I was in Hamilton, I really liked the city. I really liked how much it reminded me of Chicago, like certain neighborhoods in Chicago. I really liked like how like authentic the people were. After McMaster, I worked in Toronto and then New York City, and I found myself coming back to Hamilton, like to see friends and to hang out when I would come back home. I wouldn't necessarily go to Toronto to see friends. I'd come to Hamilton because I enjoyed, you know, that people in Hamilton were really proud of Hamilton, and I, you know, in planning and thinking about what Merit wanted to represent, I thought that what we wanted to present and what we wanted to represent really fell in line with the idea that Hamilton is a city that exists with merit. It doesn't really care about, you know, being glitzy or glamorous, or it doesn't care about, you know, a lot of things that, you know, that bigger cities often, you know, broadcast and see as, you know, things you should put on big shiny billboards. The people in Hamilton know what's great about Hamilton, and that's all that matters. We don't need to broadcast it. We don't need to, you know, sing it from the mountaintops. We love this city because we know it, and we know why it's great. And having that feeling come from so many people here was, I immediately understood it. I immediately was connected to, you know, to that. And downtown Hamilton, it always blew my mind how dismissed it was. It's downtown. It's like, you know, it's the core of the city. But so often, you know, Hamilton was about the peripheral, and, you know, even people who run the city, like like, you know, for example, politicians kind of always dismiss the downtown. And so I really like the idea of building something in, you know, the heart of the city that was really rooted in so many of the things that we care about at Merit. Like when we opened up in 2017, it was all art galleries and artist studios and, you know, creative businesses, and, you know, people like us that, you know, had the, you know, proverbial dollar and a dream. You know, and Hamilton has kind of always been this city where if you have a dollar and a dream, you can come here and try something. So for us, that, you know, that really fit in with what we wanted to do. We could have opened up in Toronto. We could have opened up wherever we wanted, but Hamilton made sense for Merit.
You've been in both of my favorite North American cities. I love the Hammer. I can't say enough about it. Chicago. I was in Chicago working in '88 when it was like the lowest you could have gotten Chicago to. Yeah. And the changes since 1988 to now are unbelievable. Same with downtown Hamilton. The amount of growth happening is unbelievable now.
Yeah, for sure. I was in Chicago '87 to 2001, and I was lucky enough to be there for the Jordan years, and that, you know, definitely fueled a lot of my, you know, fanaticism for the city, and you know, it was a hugely exciting part of my childhood. But it's continued to be a great city. I love it there. It's again especially for the size of the city, it's very authentic. Like living in Manhattan and then Brooklyn was mind-blowingly different. And a lot of my work was in LA too, and that was just a whole nother ball game of, you know, not being real. Chicago feels real, Hamilton feels real, and that's, you know, that definitely is something that, you know, I very much connect between the two cities for sure.
Yep, I think you've got it right, real, because, you know, Chicago's cowtown. Like it was born on our abattoir industry, and Hamilton being steel town, blue collar workers. So, speaking of creative, time and space or waves next? Tough one, isn't it?
Yeah. Let's dive into waves first.
Okay.
A bit. So that's waves. It's a nice fancy clear bottle with some watermelon juice looking liquid inside of it. Waves is a really cool series. It's a fruit and sour, for lack of better categorization. It's a series for us that we always rotate 2 different fruits in, plus a touch of vanilla. For us, it's a fun way to play with fruit combinations. It's a fun way to mess around with, you know, being inspired by like childhood beverages that we've enjoyed as well, or childhood candies. And so for us, watermelon and strawberry, we were thinking about 2 different fruits for us that really reminded us of summer. Strawberries, you know, especially in Hamilton being so close to so many farms in the area, we have a bounty of fresh strawberries here that's really great. Watermelon, there's nothing better than, you know, biting into a cold piece of watermelon in the summertime, if you ask me. So yeah, we wanted to make this one just like ultimate summer refreshment. I get like straight up Jolly Ranchers. Like when I drink this one, that's all it reminds me of is like properly puckering, but not, you know, but still sweet, still balanced. You get that like kind of like little hit of watermelon up front, and then that strawberry kind of finishes with you and gets like candied over your palate. Yeah, it's a really cool one. It's a series we've had. It's a fun beer for us. Sometimes we don't take ourselves so seriously, and Waves is definitely one of those series. It's definitely one of those series that we just have fun with. We get to play around, and we like packaging it in the clear bottles too, because so much of like what people love about this series is how the beer looks. We made a raspberry blueberry version that was like electric pink looking. We made a banana mango version that was just like mango smoothie looking. We have a tangerine peach version that we're packaging tomorrow that just looks like orange juice. There's 0 hops in them, so we're not worried about light struck at all. We made sure of that, before we put it into a clear bottle. But yeah, for us, it's also been a fun way to mess around with packaging and do something different when it comes to using these bottles.
It is definitely the flavor, the way you described it. Wow.
Yeah, we find, I don't know if folks on the call feel the same way. Fruited sours, it can be harder and harder to kind of differentiate one from the other right now. It's hard to come up with unique combinations. We just did a kiwi guava dragon fruit sour that we thought was like a really cool combination. But you know what? I think sometimes with fruited sours, you lean into what works, and watermelon and strawberry, you don't need to make it too weird. You keep it purposeful with just being nice and cool and refreshing for the summertime.
So from the creative side, how do you decide what to brew?
We only recently, like 6 months, or actually no, about a year ago now, we kind of started to realize that we were categorizing what we were making into like 5 styles, which I think has really helped. Pre-COVID, we sold 99% of what we made in these 4 walls. So it was, really interesting from a production scheduling standpoint. We could literally see all of our beer all of the time. So we could walk into our walk-in cooler and see exactly where our inventory levels were at, and know almost intuitively when to brew. With COVID kind of changing our business model pretty drastically, we really had to grow up and be a real brewery, if you will. Start sending beer out into the world, do the things that grown-up breweries do. Put beer into kegs and send them out. It's really weird to think that we never really did that before, but we really liked our like insular bubble here in Hamilton and in these 4 walls. But we realized pretty quickly we should probably strategize a production schedule as opposed to thinking about that IPA is about half done. We should brew one, so in 2 weeks when the remaining 50% is done, we'll have another IPA. But anyways, we kind of came down to like 5 kind of categories for how we frame the production schedule right now. We brew a lot of IPAs. We love IPAs. It's Spinny for him. It's probably the style that he dives the deepest on when it comes to the science of brewing. He's made so many tweaks when it comes to the water chemistry, hopping rates, hopping schedule. He's really, really fine tuning every single brew of an IPA, and it's really cool to see the results of that. We brew them so frequently too. Basically once a week we're brewing a new IPA. We got IPAs, we got the fruit sours. People love them. We can't keep them in stocks. We got to keep that on the production schedule. We have the hybrid series of beers that we do, which is really limited to kind of like 6 to 8 months of the release schedule, given that harvest is only 2 months long. And then stouts. We love stouts. We love brewing stouts. We would brew big imperial stouts all year round, if we could, from a tank time and sales pace. But and then otherwise, the last category we don't even know what to call it, but it's lagers and other things. But we're really looking forward to brewing a lot more lagers. We've increased production capacity a bit to make sure we can maintain a lager on tap as often as possible. But we're also using that category to brew things like the wit beer as well. Basically, classic styles that we're trying to really kind of find almost like underrepresented classic styles within that category too, which is a fun challenge. So yeah, that's the other style. We've got a few more things kind of coming out in that vein that are going to be, you know, nice classic beers that everyone knows, but sometimes you don't have access to.
Is there a beer that you'd like to brew that you haven't brewed yet?
I'm a sucker for like malty low ABV beers. So I really like milds and ESBs, and yeah, I'd be really into brewing a mild or brewing an ESB. We're really lucky here in Hamilton. We've got Clifford down the road, and Brad brews a lot of great classic English styles. So I get my mild and my ESB fixed from him, or actually KW when Rob releases Catherine the Mild. I'm there buying a case whenever he releases that, because that beer's great. But yeah, I think we'll probably have something like that, kind of within that vein of being like maltier and low ABV, you know, in the fall. It's been something we've never brewed at all, like literally like anything that is malty or low ABV. So I'm pretty excited to add something like that into the rotation.
Things have opened up. We're approaching maybe what we think is our new normal. What's next on the slate for Merit Brewing?
There's a few things. The big one when it comes to brewing and production specifically is we're going to be making a move to cans, which is a big move for us. We love our bottles. You know, when we opened in 2017, it was the fashionable packaging format, and we really like them for a lot of reasons. We built this place to share, and we really like the idea of the 500 milliliter bottles being shareable, or solo. You know, that's cool too. You know, not everywhere needs to be shared. It's cool to have one yourself. But yeah, so switching to cans was not even bittersweet, because we're all really excited about it. But it is going to be it's going to be a big change. Like, just from an infrastructure standpoint, like in the brewery alone, there's so many things that you don't realize necessitate needing when it comes to making that switch over. Sadly, they don't make clear cans. I'm not gonna lie. We like literally joked about that. Like, what are we gonna do with waves? We love this like clear bottle thing. We're gonna have to give that up, I guess. But we'll make sure the packaging still looks really cool and it can still shine through. But yeah, that's the big one. I'm really excited. We're doing a little bit of mobile canning through one of the mobile canning companies here to, start to introduce people to the idea that Merit's coming in cans, and not make it all, just jarring and shocking one day in the fall. And people have really picked up on it, which is really cool. We're doing short cans. And that's a little bit different than the other breweries in the market too. So yeah, we're excited for that change. That's gonna be really fun. And then other than that, we're out pre-COVID, about a month before, in February 2020, we had the awesome misfortune timing-wise of buying a building down the road. It's really exciting. We're gonna be building another space. It's not going to be a full brewery yet, but we are going to be building out an additional like barrel warehouse and production space there. And then the other thing it's going to do is facilitate events and facilitate, a lot of the community activities that we really want to do. We have this space here. We love it. It's really hard for us to shut it all down to, do a lot of the small scale community events that we want to do. And we kind of foresee this other space being able to help us take a lot of the community engagement pieces that we kind of already have like relationships with, and like bring them into a physical realm. So a lot of the nonprofits in the city that we have like active relationships with, we're going to be working on like bringing them into that space and using that space as a way to like facilitate their needs as well. So yeah, I'm looking forward to that. The big old pause button was pressed once COVID started, but we're gonna get back to building that space out in the next few months.
Well, as you pointed out, there's always been a fantastic community along the street that you're on. So it's always been the draw for Jackie and I on her Saturday off to go to that area.
Cool.
So, what's next for yourself?
That's a big question. I'm intrinsically connected to the brewery, so a lot of the same things. Yeah, you know, I dive headfirst in bringing a lot of the growth of this place to life. So a lot of what's next for me is intrinsically tied to this. I'm also opening up a bottle shop as well in the east end of Hamilton right now. It's been one of the coolest changes for me over the past year, seeing the ability to have a bottle shop. I see a sidewalk beer shop shirt right there. They've done an incredible job. I've really enjoyed seeing how people have used the new capability of being able to sell beer to go. And I did a pop-up in Toronto for about 4 months to kind of test out building this brand idea that I had for a shop and build up the kind of infrastructure for the business. And so, yeah, we got a space a couple months ago. We've been starting to build it out. And the east end of Hamilton is pretty underserviced when it comes to bottle shops and beer bars and that kind of thing. So I'm gonna be opening up a small beer bar and craft bottle shop with like 100 to 120 different beers, 40 or 50 different natural wines, 30, 40 different ciders, all in one 500 square foot space in the east end of Hamilton. Gonna cram it all in there, but that's a personal project for me outside of Merit that I'm really excited about bringing to life. And it's the part of the city that I live in as well. So even though it's only 11 minutes down the road, it's really nice to have a business in my neighborhood that I'm gonna sink my teeth into.
How far east in the East End are you?
I'm at like Kenilworth and Cannon, and the bottle shop at Ottawa and Cannon. So not far.
Okay, I was just curious because the East End, you're right, is very underserviced. It's also huge.
Yeah, it is. Yeah. I see an interesting question from Derek there. So there was I'll fill everybody in on the backstory. So there was a fire in a warehouse plaza in the east end of Hamilton last September on Parkdale Avenue, 420 Parkdale Avenue. And it was reported when that fire happened that there was a brewery in that fire, which wasn't necessarily true, but kind of true. The kind of true part of it was that it was actually Merit's space. So we had that's actually one of the reasons.
Sorry.
Yeah, no. We had actually been renting that warehouse space for since Merit opened up as our extra bottle storage. We had a walk-in fridge there, grain storage was there, our whole barrel program was there, and so last September that burned to the ground. I got a call at about 3:30 in the morning saying you need to get over to Parkdale, and saw a bunch of fire engines putting out a fire in our warehouse. It was pretty nuts. Another weird curveball during COVID. At first, it was like I actually didn't even know what to say for like weeks. But yeah, that was us.
My brother works for the company in that plaza that builds the custom trailers. Nomad.
Yeah. Oh yeah, he's amazing.
Their unit got pretty messed up too, smoke and water. But anyway, sorry to bring that up. That's probably a tough memory.
No,
you think it was you guys?
You know what? Like it was a huge learning experience. I've never been so thankful for insurance. I've never, thought I'd say that, but insurance was a hell of a process. Great that we got everything covered by insurance. Just a tough 3 months of dealing with the repercussions of that. It was the weird part about it all is that it was arson. It was a pretty massive investigation. And so, yeah, it took a lot out of us for a few months to deal with that amongst everything else. But weird. Another thing I never thought I'd have to deal with or have to face, but pretty wild. Again, curveball in the midst of everything else.
So that brings me to the question I would always ask, and that is, with everything that's happened, how do you stay grounded?
I think it's kind of a very, honestly, it's kind of a very natural thing for me, or has become a very natural thing for me to be grounded, because it's kind of the reason I came into craft beer, to be honest with you. Pre coming into beer, I built a career in music that was everything that as a 16-year-old kid making music I thought I would ever dream of, and consider myself very lucky to do what I was doing in music. And it was one of those things where, as much as I was on paper and to the rest of the world excited about everything that the music industry brought me, it wasn't making me happy whatsoever. It was actually pretty miserable, and I wasn't the person that I was wanting to be at the end of the day. So that was like the reason to leave music, was to focus back on becoming the person that I wanted to be. And a big part of that for me was inspired by my grandparents, and that's the story of Merit is inspired by my grandparents. Merit is named after their furniture store that they spent their lives building in British Columbia, and they at one point had 22 stores, and they used the growth of their stores to bring people over from India, and that's what they spent their lives doing. They built furniture stores so they could support their village back home, and that pursuit of purpose I found was really missing from what I was doing in music, and for me was a pretty big signal for, hey, I should do something with purpose. So Merit is that for me. It's not just an honoring piece to thank them for what they taught me, but it's a reminder to myself to stay rooted in the things that are the reason that I'm here at the end of the day. What they taught my dad, and what my dad taught me, and what they taught me, I spent a lot of time with them both near the end of their lives, and I got to learn directly from them about 95 years of hard work and history, and that story and their work is all I need to stay grounded, and to know that, as crazy as the last year has been, the depression happened and my grandparents got through it. The recession after recession almost bankrupt their stores, and they got through it, and they still carried on and continued with their purpose after that. So I'm fortunate at the end of the day. It's the last year and a half have sucked, but it's it is what it is, and it's at the end of the day, it's part of the story that I hope I can tell my kids. And at the end of the day, kind of carry on doing what I want to do, and why I'm doing this all at the end of the day. So yeah, I have them to thank. I have my parents and my wife and my daughter to thank, keep me grounded, because those are the real things in life, and that's the real things are why we do this. We love making beer, we love making food. It's a lot of fun to do these things. We're very privileged to be able to spend our days doing all this. At the end of the day, what we're doing is doing it for the real things that matter. Merit's supposed to be a hub for supporting Hamilton. Hamilton supports us immensely, and we're wildly grateful for that. So we're going to continue to build this place to make sure we can support our community and the people that need support in our community. That's the goal. That's the mission. It's no matter how hard it is, it's head down. Let's keep working on that.
I'm going to say, what a wonderful gift, your grandparents, on many levels. On many levels. Thank you for sharing that with us.
No problem.
Time and space. You want to talk to us a little bit about that?
Totally, yes. Time and space. It's a new IPA out a couple weeks ago. It has Galaxy and Citra. So Galaxy is the space. Citra is the time, I guess. Wasn't really meant to be, but we thought it worked. Yeah, for us, this is really indicative of the IPAs that we really like to brew and the IPAs we really like to drink. Really like fruit forward when it comes to the hop profile. Galaxy's a joy to work with, always is. Really nice like ripe tropical fruit character. A little bit of white wine character in there, splashed in as well. A little bit of berry character from the Mosaic, from the Citra. Low bitterness, super creamy. There's like 60% oats in this beer. So it's really, really heavily oated. We wanted to have it be really different than Young Rival, which is our like flagship IPA. That we brew a lot. Young Rival is like immensely easy drinking for 6% in that it's not thin, but it's not heavily oated. It's just meant to be something you realize, oh shit, I finished a glass in the last 30 seconds. While Time and Space still really easy drinking because it doesn't have a lot of bitterness or any really at all. It doesn't have that hop burn, but it just got a little bit of a creamier mouthfeel to it. It's supposed to be a little bit more of a treat for 6.8. Yeah, for being 6.8%, like no heat to it. It's really easy drinking for 6.8. Yeah, it's just a fun one to show off a couple really nice hops. I love IPAs. We all do here. It's really indicative of a modern IPA.
Galaxy really shines in this one.
Yeah, we're excited. We're excited about all the crop of hops we've been getting this year. A lot of I feel like over the last couple of years, we've had kind of like some weird swings of some of the bigger name hops like Mosaic and Citra, especially. We've seen some like weird swings in their quality. Galaxy this year feeling really awesome about it. Citra feeling awesome about it. We've been using a little bit more Sasquatch in a couple IPAs coming up, which is one of the only like patented Canadian hops. And it's like really cool to see how that hop's come along as well. So yeah, I think I don't know how the crop this year is going to be with wildfires and global warming in the Pacific Northwest right now. We'll see what this year brings, but yeah, it's a bit of a weird, wild ride. Haven't gotten the full report on that one yet.
Yeah, and probably won't for a while yet. They're they're only in the beginning stages of everything that's going on out there.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I have a question for you.
Yeah.
If you could spend a day brewing or talking about beer with anybody, who would it be?
Bill, I saw that you were going to ask me this one. I actually had a really hard time thinking about it over the last couple days. I don't know. I feel like a lot of people have a pretty marquee brewer or marquee person in their brewing story to say, hey, I'd really like to brew with this one person because they've really influenced me. I'm honestly just missing seeing people right now. We've got a lot of friends that we haven't been able to see in a long time. A lot of them in the States. We've been really fortunate to make some great relationships in the brewing community in the States, and we've actually had to miss two festivals in a row now that we were supposed to go down and pour at over the last couple of months because they're fully open, but we can't go down necessarily yet. So my answer was going to be I just miss people, and I just miss brewing with other human beings that I haven't been able to see for a year and a half. But outside of that generic answer, Garrett Oliver has always been a wildly inspirational person in the brewing world for me. Brewmaster of Brooklyn Brewery. He's been around for like decades. He's pioneered a lot in the American brewing world. I've gotten a chance to meet him several times when I was in New York, and we've always had really great chats. His book, Brewmaster's Table, being the first book that I read about beer and food, was like completely eye-opening to me. He never, like, reading that book hungry or thirsty was the worst idea ever. I always like started reading it and then like had to go crack a beer and start making some food. So I'll change if the question was who would I want to eat and drink and cook and brew with, it would 100% be Garrett Oliver, because his sense of how intrinsically connected beer and food are pretty incredible. I feel like a night hanging out with Garrett Oliver, eating and drinking would be pretty spectacular.
I'll remember that next time to rephrase my question to include food.
That's how I think about it. Like, not just beer. I think a lot about food in general, but especially when it comes to beer, I think about food, all the time. That's, again, kind of part of what we built here, was how we connect those things. And, so many of my like best experiences have come with those two things at the forefront of the experience, and, very, very purposely together. There's a restaurant in New York City that unfortunately it's no longer around. It was called Luxus, and it's the only Michelin-starred restaurant in the world to not have a wine program. They had a beer program instead, and it was in the back of the Torst beer bar. Torst is still around. It's my favorite beer bar in the world. But in the back of Torst, Luxus was this incredible restaurant that really focused on beer, and they had beer from everywhere. Beer, they had all the beer that you knew and sought after and idolized, but they also had stuff you've never heard of that they were like, this is going to work with this dish and you're going to enjoy it. And it was mind blowing. So yeah, food and beer for me, there's nothing better. It's always a pursuit to find the connection between those things, for sure.
One final question for you. What would you like all of us to take away from our chat tonight?
It's a big one too. I'm going to kind of riff on this one, so I don't know if it's going to make any sense at all. One of the things that I love about craft beer and about the craft beer community is that everyone can play a part in it. In that, whether you own a brewery or whether you are a fan of beer, the really cool thing that I see about the development of craft beer and the development of the craft beer industry is that there is this ability for everyone together to kind of elevate and grow and bring forward craft beer into the world. Whether it's telling your friend about a new brewery, or or sharing a beer with your neighbor, or being from my perspective, being a brewery in a community that works with non-breweries in the the community. Is that no matter what your in it is that everyone has the ability to make craft beer better, and I really like that. I love the craft beer community often gets almost talked about to a point where you don't believe if it's a real thing or if it's just like if it's a facade. But I really like the fact that I see Derek wearing a Sidewalk Beer Shop shirt, and I know what that is, and that's his way of supporting a small business, and Mark's way of supporting his community by employing people and doing the great things that he does is his part in this all. And I think it's really cool that craft beer connects so many people and kind of brings different worlds together, but also the thing that I literally just thinking about over the last little bit is that everybody, whether you're a fan or a brewer or not, everybody has a part to play in making this something that can grow and is part of the norm. And I remember the first time I saw growler fills available at a gas station in Arizona, my mind was blown how like normal craft beer was in Arizona. I don't know if we need growler fills at gas stations in Ontario, but it's cool to see. It's cool to see how the idea of a small business. At the end of the day, that's what we are. We're just a small business. You know, it's cool to see how small business can connect people, and how this kind of small business can connect people. That a lot of industries and a lot of small businesses don't necessarily have this kind of relationship or connection with their community or connection with their customers. So I think that's really special about craft beer. And so I guess it's kind of a thank you to, you know, for creating, you know, for being a part of this community, Bill, and you know, everyone on this call as well. This is why craft beer is cool, because it's more than just like a transactional purchase at a store, that a lot of things are. And this is, and the reason that we built Merit, this is a relationship thing. This is a, you know, building something together, I guess is the best way to put it. So yeah, I guess that's it. Thanks for you know, everybody for playing their part in building this whole thing. It's pretty cool to go through it together. It's a lot of fun, and we're just really lucky to be doing our part for that.
Tejs, I want to thank you for joining us tonight and giving us the gift of your time and the story behind Merit Brewing. Truly appreciate that. Thank you.
No problem at all. Thanks for having me on, and cheers to everybody. Hope you guys enjoyed the beer.
Cheers.
Hope you enjoyed the time. Hope that hope to see you around Merit sometime soon, or hope to see you at Sidewalk Beer Shop while I'm shoving cases of beer back into Mark's fridge for him.
That's true. Next week, ladies and gentlemen, remember, Jeremy Taylor's coming on from Two Crows. I hopefully will be doing the show right from the brewery itself on Tuesday night. You can stop recording now, David.